to see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. Let rain fall, let rain
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Today at the Races. I'm Kimber Goodwin, joined by Keith Fustel of Equibase. Happy Monday, Keith.
Happy Monday. Yeah, is that a band? The Happy Mondays, maybe?
It should be if it's not.
All
I'll
right.
tell you, you can't even have the Monday blues when you have a good card to bet on, so
Yeah.
makes Mondays more tolerable, doesn't it?
That's exactly right, yeah.
We have another nice day here at Laurel Park. It's just a tad overcast, but we're supposed to get into the low 50s today. The track is fast, and we see that they're doing a little maintenance on the rail right now. They just passed us here going into the first turn, and looks like they are scraping the rail just a smidge, and certainly riders were more on the rail yesterday. It didn't seem to be the death trap that it has been, in the last even month or so.
Last couple months, yeah.
Horses going 4 wide on the turn, as a matter of fact. So we'll see today if it holds sway again, that the rail was a much better place to be.
Yep, absolutely. So it's one thing, been there a long time. I mean, you follow this circuit a long time as well, and I just hadn't seen a stretch where the inside was as negative as it's been over the last couple of months. You used to never be able to be 4 wide into the far turn going around of ground and win a race. Now you can.
Right. Well, it's a good handicapping angle also. If you see horses that inexplicably ran poorly, coming from that 1 or 2 hole that showed some early speed, speed on the rail was not the place to be. So you might be able to dig out some horses that didn't seem to run well last time, and you might be able to get a little bit of a price.
That's why you got to watch those videos, watch those reruns.
Well, Today at the Races is brought to you by Fidelity First, and we have 9 races on the card today. I thought yesterday's card was so tough on paper, and it ended up being so tough on the racetrack, with the exception of a couple of horses. There were some surprises, some head scratchers, but today looks like a little more straightforward card.
It is. I think it's a little bit easier than what we saw yesterday. We were able to sniff out, a couple winners. Hammy Smith's horse at a big price at 8-1, kind of got the perfect bob, never gave up, looked beaten at the 5/16 fall, and first timer. Now the name's going to escape me. The Tim Ritchie horse, really ran like Sir Scotty or something like that.
Got the early money.
Wow.
It was the early favorite when the horses came to the paddock. Ended up drifting up to 9-2. So if you got on that horse early, you got rewarded.
Absolutely. This horse, it looks like he has a little bit of a future. Kind of just prompted outside of the other horse. Was confidently handled all the way around the turn, and when the jock let him go with the 3/16, he just took off. I think the preliminary buyer was an 85. So really strong, and we'll keep an eye on that runner moving ahead.
And the Katie Voss's first-time starter finished second in that race. He's a big giant horse. I expect before too long we'll see him go long.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, let's take a look at today. I do have some favorites today. I picked probably more favorites than I normally do, which I only usually pick about 1 favorite a day. But I do have some prices underneath, as I think some of them are hard to pick around. But we'll get started and see what we have. Don't forget, we have the early pick 5 starting here in race number 1. That industry low takeout of 12%. Carryover is possible on the late pick 5 only. There is no super high 5 in race number 1. We do have a scratch of the 1 Cheetah's Tail. This is a 1.1/16 a nickel claimer for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, and it looks like we both end up on the same horse.
Benchmark Bay just kind of looks too good. Maybe they're giving. It looks like they're just trying to give her away. I mean, there's a horse that holding pretty good turf form. A good effort last time behind So Innocent. The 2-back try wasn't bad on the dirt in the same. In the 16,000 2-in-life level. But here's the negative. Farrier, he's done well of recent note. But this barn, when they drop him, tread lightly. 0 for 7 over the past year on double droppers. 5 of those runners were 7-2 or less. Red flag out for Benchmark Bay. If she wins, she's going to win without me, and that's fine. We both like the 4, Jaina Lee.
Jaina Lee, I thought the most remarkable stat for this 5-year-old mare is she's first-time Lasix. I don't know that I've seen a horse first-time Lasix at 5 years old. That's a pretty incredible stat. She is dropping from $10,000, where she was just a little overmatched against She Be Fierce. She Be Fierce is is fierce. I mean, she's just a win machine, and to be beaten only 3 3/4 lengths by her on that slight drop down. You know, last time, 2 starts ago, she was in the mud. She ran up for 25,000. I don't think she belonged there. She was third for 10,000 the start before. I think this is where she belongs. And with the Lasix on, you know, obviously Benchmark Babe is if she runs back to her last race, she'll win by 20 lengths.
Sure.
But King T. Leatherberry, you know, he knows a couple things about
things.
training
Yeah.
horses. He said, there's a reason you don't see a guy in the parking lot selling $5 bills for $1. So, you know, King's logic does hold sway in here that she looked awful good for in an optional claimer 25,000 last time and finished second and now in for a nickel. But you just never know because he could get away with this with every other trainer going, oh, I don't want that horse because what's going on, and then you get an easy win.
Well,
So
you really look at it, too. You break it down. In this field, a shorter field, she's going to be awfully short. Her dirt numbers are not like leaps and bounds above everybody, but the money's just going to it is going to pour in on the drop. But Jane Lay, as you said, I don't think she necessarily needs a lead. I think she's going to be tactical in here. Her 4-back try at a mile wasn't bad. The Lasix goes on, as you say. Durango girl out of the last race came back to run a good second.
Right.
She keys up the right. We're trying to push a trainer though that doesn't run a lot of horses, that doesn't win a lot
Correct.
into the winner's circle. But we're not going to
Then
take the
he's
short
due.
price. Yeah.
We saw that happen yesterday. Let's also talk about the 5, Tis Majesty. She's only 1 for 25, so I couldn't pick her to win here. But she has been this distance 9 times and 5 times has been first or second. She's also on the drop where it appears she's just been overmatched. Her non-winners of 2 lifetime, 3 starts ago for 10,000, looked like a decent race.
Yeah, she's okay at the 2 turns, and she's shown she can handle this. She's another one, a stalker. She was out of that race the last time Benchmark Babe was on the dirt. She's out of that race on November the 13th. Couldn't really kind of kick it in against her. She had a good trip that day, but she has the staying power, and that might just be enough in this first race. I think Arlie's Diamond will go ahead and force the issue. She's going to be a pace factor for Hugh McMahon.
She and Benchmark Babe look like they're the ones that are going to set the pace. And interesting to note, someone's statistic is going to change after this race. There's not a single horse in this field right now that has won over the Laurel surface. So somebody's getting their picture taken at Laurel for the first time today. Let's go on to race number 2. We have another nickel claimer. This is 5.5 furlongs for 3-year-olds and up. This is a non-winners of 2 lifetime. We have no scratches in race number 2. And who'd you like, Keith? Oh, we have a super high 5. Sorry about that. Starting in this race because we do not have one in race number 1. And Keith, I believe you have a ticket in here to talk about for the pick 4.
Got an early pick 4 ticket. Yeah, we're going to take a shot at this today, starting in race number 2. Spreading around in the first leg in race number 2 with the 3, the 5, the 6, and the 8. If we've got that, thanks, guys. Race 3, the 2 and the 7, only 2 deep in there. Sir Brahms, part of the entry that stays in. Scratch the plane to Hosta Aurora and scratch the 6, Bustin' to Be Bad in race number 3. So we're going to go with the 2 and the 7 in race 3. Race 4. The 3 and the 6, Final Forum and Bizad's Pride. Sky Chaparral, I'm going to try to beat the dropper. We're in 2 big races against Better now dropping in for the 75. I'm going to maybe use underneath. And in race number 5, the 5, Noble Kent, and the 7, Abdar for Jacobson. Only a $16 ticket. It's about what we've got left to get through today. So hopefully we can catch the pick 4 and take us to the later races.
We are going to either sink or swim together because I have a lot of the same horses as you do today. So we'll see if great minds think alike, or or if we're off the mark today.
We're going to find a park bench, grab a bottle and a bag, and that'll be it.
May do that anyway. It may do it to celebrate. You can never tell. Let's take a look at race number 2, and we both end up on the same horse in this race, Break the Mold.
Break the Mold, I think, is going to get the right kind of setup. Argento is pretty quick, but Yearbook just to its outside with J.D. Acosta, kind of a hustling rider, a good gate rider, might put enough pressure on Argento to force him to kind of weaken a little bit through the stretch. I think Break the Mold is at the right level. I don't mind the shorting up from 7 to 5.5. I think it's only going to enhance his horse's run. A shorter field doesn't have to deal with as many horses as he did last time. Sits back, makes a good circling run to get it done. I think 50's Music. The 3 horse in here is the other kind of closer, maybe stalker for Sergio Pradenas. Encountered trouble 2 races back at this level and kept on willingly to the wire, just overmatching its last start and even had a little bit of trouble early. But I think it's a sweet move for the 8. break the mold.
50s Music looks really tough in here, and a jock change to Carrasco in this race. And another thing about 50s Music, the 3-horse, this horse bobbled at the start last time out and still rushed up to be just 2 lengths off the lead. And sometimes that just takes a little bit out of the horse. Also, in a race that was just, as you said, too competitive, but going back to this level looks really tough. But break the mold was hard for me to pick around if you get enough pace. Yearbook has shown speed in the past. Argento has speed. Wild Crazy Bill has speed. I also looked at the 7 Summer Run. This horse is coming off of a couple of turf tries, but go back and look at his dirt form when he was claimed out of a maiden race and then came back and finished second for 16,000. He's been on the Laurel track 3 times and has been in the money in all 3 of those races, so he clearly likes the dirt surface
This
here.
is going to be first time blinkers on the dirt. A horse that kind of wanted to close on the turf but showed speed even in its debut back in March. The Summer Run could be forward, so that's key. And doing okay, Casabios with Dale Capuano. Yeah, I just think it sets up nicely for break the mold. But 50s Music, and that's a good observation you make with that horse bobbling last time, the 3, and then rushing up. That's key to watching the race reruns and seeing. It just took the horse out of its even style. This horse can sit and make a move, but used hard into a quick early quarter of a mile. Sure, at this level, these horses are really. They're going to drop back off of that. They're not going to be able to sustain.
And, you know, after stumbling, he rushes up and is 2 lengths off an early quarter in 22 and change. So had to have made an impact. Let's move along to race number 3. We have a group of maidens for 16,000. They are 2-year-olds, and they are going 5.5 furlongs, scratch the 6, Bustin' to be Bad, and the plain 2, Hasta Ahora, is out, leaving Sir Brahms as the lone entry in lone part of the entry in race number 3. Ended up being my pick, and my second. I mean, we're just reversed in here, so we like the same horses.
Yeah, we've got video. Let's talk about Eyes first. Number 7 for John Salzman Jr. Really had an encouraging debut back on November the 13th, and we're going to follow Eyes first. Had to break from the rail in an 11-horse field, and this horse just stayed on pretty gamely all the way through the stretch. You're saying down towards the inside, shifts in late. We can pick this horse up. Yeah, and has to look at that. A little bit of traffic inside of about 4 horses to its outside, and the rail was not good that day. Look at this horse, very willing to the wire. I like that effort with a little bit of traffic at the 8th pole. Positive debut run for Eyes first. I think this horse moving to the outside will break a little bit better, get a little more better stalking position, and get the job done from just off the pace.
And there's no way that race didn't benefit him, first time out. So, again, didn't give up when he had every opportunity to do so after not having any clear running room. I ended up going to Sir Brahms from the Jamie Ness barn. May not have liked the mud last time out, was beaten at Delaware, came into Laurel last time where he'd run okay. I mean, it still wasn't a trounce by any stretch. He was only beaten 3 1/4 lengths. Jamie Ness, I picked against him pretty much all day yesterday, and he made me pay. That barn is just really, really hot right now. But Eyes first, for much the same reasons. You said he retains Prado on, and those two look like the horses in here. The 8, Birdie's Honor, is shipping in from Kentucky for Steve Casey. Probably will be part of the early pace. There doesn't appear to be a lot of speed on paper in this race, so this horse might get away with some easy fractions.
No doubt. I think this horse holds the level, will be quick out of the gate, will set the pace for a while. I think Sir Brahms with a clear break should be able to hound him, though.
Right.
I don't think he's going to be too far back. We talked about Ness yesterday. On these droppers over his career, he's about 27%, and he does very well with his 2-year-olds on these little class drops. But Eyes first, Salzman Jr. over the course of his career, 2-year-olds making their second career start. It's 20%. And we talked about the mare, I believe, last time. We used this horse the last time it ran. It was at 1 or 2 foals at 1 right off the bat. So this is very, very precocious breeding for the 7.
Another thing about Sir Brahms, not only did he catch the mud, which he's never won in, but he got off a step slow, and then he steadied early. So he had 3 strikes against him that day, so we'll see. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with the remainder of the card. Welcome back, everyone, to the paddock here at Laurel Park for Today at the Races. I'm Kimber Goodwin along with Keith Fustel, and we are at race number 4 on the card. It is 5.5 furlongs, $7,500 claiming for 3-year-olds and up. And Keith, we do have a very small carryover in the pick 6 today of $715. Yesterday, to tell you how really tough that card was, we had going into leg number 4 of the pick 6 only 2 live tickets, and then after leg 4 of the pick 6 we had 0. So that's pretty unusual to have basically everybody out after the third leg of the pick 6.
We've had this a couple times though in the last couple of weeks. It's showing you how tricky some of these race cards are at Laurel when you're trying to string along 5, 6 winners in a row. It's not easy, but that's why it pays the dividends. So jump right in on the Rainbow 6. I know we got a slight little carryover, but you know what? Stan and I talk about it. You sneak in on a day like this, you can take it down.
If you take the whole thing, listen, it's going to be a couple $1,000s. That's still a good day for a Monday.
I'll buy some Christmas presents.
In this race, your top pick is the 3 Final Forum.
Yeah, Final Forum. We've got video of Final Forum's last race, November the 11th. This horse is a 4-year-old colt. He's holding form for Dale Capuano. Goes 3rd time on the barn change today. This is the day, the Ben's Cat Day. Classic Wildcat moves up to the outside. Final Forum, you see in the orange with the black. Moving up, looks like he's going to kind of cruise to the lead. But Jockey Torres kind of just eases back a little bit, maybe a little bit unsure. Wanted to make sure Classic Wildcat kind of cleared safely. Didn't want to kind of drop in a little bit. Looked like he was going to drop out of it. Final Forum, no. Shifts out a little bit further as Classic Wildcat drifts in towards the rail. And this horse levels off very well through the last furlong and comes back gamely to cut the gap almost 3.5 lengths. It closes up through the final 1/8 of a mile. Final Forum going to get a decent enough trip, duking with Dale with some speed. I don't think Final Forum is going to let that one out of its sights. I think Bizad's Pride is going to be right there, but Final Forum at this 5.5 furlong distance, I think sits a perfect trip at this level.
He was the beaten favorite in there, and Classic Wildcat has come back and won since then. And honestly, you couldn't have beaten Classic Wildcat that day. No. It was the race after the very emotional winner's circle ceremony for Ben's Cat, Classic Wildcat, trained by King Leatherberry. I mean, I don't know how that horse loses that day. So Final Forum does look awfully tough off of that race. I did take Sky Chaparral. I know you're trying to beat this horse. Loves Laurel 6 times, 3 wins, 2 seconds. A perfect 2 for 2 at this distance. Was in I think those starter allowance races here are just so super tough. Doesn't matter how many are in the field. There were 7 that day, and basically everybody in those starter allowance fields have a shot. They're just very hard-knocking, tough trying horses, and this horse, is going to depend on, like you said, duking with Dale and Bizad's Pride to set up an early pace with Final Forum pushing, as this horse will be nowhere to be found early, but has run 2 firsts and 2 seconds in his last 4 races. So just look, you got to use him.
It doesn't mind the distance whatsoever. You see that 2 for 2. My biggest concern is, look, we're hitting winter time. This is a horse that was only beaten 2 lengths in an A other than with a buyer of 77. You're going to let him fly today for 75. He's still running for a great pot. They ran this horse. They weren't scared to run him for the nickel. Nobody jumped in. He's going to be making a solid run from the back of the pack. I believe that. But I don't know if it's going to be in time. Bizad's Pride, we've got a stat for owner-trainer Scott Lake. Look at this comment. Do we have that stat, guys, if we have it, or no?
Yes, we do. He's won 5 of 11 races this year. That's pretty tough. I mean, nobody else in this field has been to the winner's circle 5 times.
How about this stat? You talk about relationships, owners and trainers, and how they do together. How about Tom Reynolds and Scott Lake? This combo over the last 3 years, 18 for 61, 30%, and 43 for 61 in the money with an ROI of $2.17. Hard to do. Hard to carry a positive ROI over that course of time, over that stretch. And they've done it, and they've worked well together. This team, whenever they come in here, do well. Bizad's Pride comes out of tougher races. That last race was awfully salty at Penn National. Has a win over this track. 2 for 3 at Laurel, 3 for 4 at the distance. Bizad's Pride, I think, gets the good positioning. If this track is still playing the way it has been, sits just outside of Dukin with Dale, goes clear. Going to have to hold off Final Form.
It should be a nice little race
Simple
in
as
here.
that, right?
Indeed, of course. At least we say
In
so.
our mind we do. We dream
We'll
it up.
see what happens on the racetrack. Race number 5 is 1 mile. It's a $7,500 claiming race. It is for 3-year-olds and up, non-winners of a race for the last 6 months. This is also start of the late pick 5 in race number 5, the only pick 5 where we have the chance of the carryover, I believe. And in this race, there are no scratches or changes. And I thought there were 2 races on the card today that were so wide open they were almost impossible to pick, and this was one of them.
Yeah,
I think this is a very tough race.
Tricky little race. There's some questions. Wrightwoods goes from Kieran over to Kaisi Cartagena for the same owner. You've got Jacobson bringing Abdar back and got the win at the nickel condition 2 races back. Went up to New York for the open bottom. Just couldn't hold on. I think this horse is well positioned to the outside. It will be forward a long, long way. Interesting. We line up on the same horse.
And as tough as this race looks, right?
Looking around for a little bit of a price, and I do think this horse will still hold some value. I know the barn, the way they're heating up right now, might knock this horse down a little bit, but Noble Kent has numbers on his page that are good enough. And look at that stat second off of a layoff for this barn, off of this type of layoff over 180 days. 16 runners, 44% with an ROI
That's
of
it?
over $4. That's huge, right? And did have a legitimate excuse. Was protected with the waiver last time. In for the tag today. Was definitely boxed in. Looked like he had a ton of run going into the far turn. Just came up flat. I think he's going to improve second time off the break. And we'll have some targets with Vision of Green, Abdar, and maybe even Banner Bill up for the lead.
And I think it's also difficult to take a horse off of a layoff of more than 6 months and send him a mile and a 16th. I think he got a lot out of that race. That combined with the trouble, even though he was beaten by Vision of Green and Banner Bill in that last race, I think he has every reason to be able to turn the tables on those rivals today. As you said, second time off the layoff. The 7, Abdar, David Jacobson does not waste gas money. He sends, like you said, sent this horse back to New York last time, but his horses are all runners here and they're all dangerous. And when he came down here for 5,000 2 starts ago, this horse's only race over the Laurel surface, he may have found an easier group than he thought. So, he ended up winning by 5 and he had some in reserve then. So I don't think the 7,500 is much of a step up. And that race that we talked about with Noble Kent that was won by Mythos, he's going to run later today in the 8th race. And you talk about an ambitious step up, horses going from 7,500 all the way to 25,000. So, at least for the winner of that race, they think he's a lot better than that level.
Yeah, Abdar, interesting. Talking about percentages as well. Jockey trainer percentages. Looked at the bottom right there in your racing form. 46% Toledo with Jacobson. This horse will get a good position stalking. Vision of Green, I think, is another one. He's in good form right now, and he can kind of dog it out the whole way. He'll kind of make a move into the pace and hang around. 5, 7, 3, and 8. Rumbling Kyle would be maybe my sneaky price user with Gary Kath. And this horse has races on his page. I know we're going back. I'll forgive him for the last one off the big layoff.
And Rumbling Kyle and Vision of Green have won more races at Laurel than anybody else. Some of them are still looking for their first win, and these horses have won 4 times over the surface. Moving along to race number 6. This is a restricted A other than 1 mile and a 16th, and scratch the 2 Legends Hope, leaving us with a field of 5 in here, but still a pretty competitive race.
It is. It's a shorter field, competitive group. Not a lot splitting them. Gin Fuzz really not proving that strongly over the dirt, but it's Ham Smith when you least expect it. Here he comes, all alone, a deep closer. Jump Jive and Whale is going to be the favorite. Has run consistently faster than any of these horses on the dirt. It's a mile and an 1/8. He makes good middle moves in those mile and a 16th races. And he may make a knockout punch type of a move, leaving the 3/8 pole that leaves him clear and free and holds off the closer. But feel proud. This barn is just doing so well. And looking at the improvement, this horse has gone from the turf numbers now to recent turf numbers. Can he transform that and carry it, switch it from turf to dirt? If that movement continues, this horse has got a shot. You see the dirt works at Pimlico. They're good. He looks like a horse that wants a mile and an 1/8, where some of these looks like they might flatten out. I'll take a shot. Feel proud. He's going to hold the best value in race number 6.
And, my question mark about him was when this horse, the claim was dropped for 5,000 out of a non-winners of 2 lifetime. Obviously, the barn has put the horse on the turf, and, but the horse had run on the turf before, but not done quite as well. So she figure out something that made this horse tick,
Yeah.
and now he's just that much better of a horse.
That-
You know, you just don't know the answer today until he gets back on the dirt. So I ended up going with the 6 Jump, Jive, and Whale, who is the likely favorite. Hammer and Ammer is just in great form right now.
Rudy
And
Rod, I think that was a Rudy. Was that
yeah,
the Rudy Rod horse? Yeah,
and
that came back.
ran away and hid from the field, was the big favorite, and ran like it, and just crushed the field at by 7 lengths. But this horse was a respectable runner-up behind that crushing winner. Also, Broad Reach came out of that race and ended up finishing 3rd. They were kind of strung out behind the winner. But Jump, Jive, and Whale, it was only 3 lengths off the early pace last time out. And, you know, I sound like a broken record today,
Yeah.
but it seems to be Jump, Jive, and Whale has shown speed in the past. There are a lot of races today on paper that set up with absolutely
Right.
no speed whatsoever. And, you know, Jump, Jive, and Whale might be able to push the issue, maybe feel proud. I mean, nobody else seems to want the lead.
No, they don't. They don't. Legends Hope, I think, can be closer. But look, the 3-back try going a mile. Look at the internals, 25, 48
Right.
shades, and they picked it up around the turn. Jump, Jive, and Well, the thing that concerns me, that was a lifetime best number last time out. Will he come off of that a little bit? Whereas Broad Reach is really improving. Look at the horse that's kind of made leaps and bounds in improvement over the last couple races. This is a horse for Jasna Pradnick that showed talent in debut back in May at Pimlico over a sloppy field service. Hesitated to break and still made a nice move within a couple lengths of the leaders at the 8th pole before flattening out. This horse is really kind of figuring it out right now. A repeat of its last and puts it right there. And that horse will not be far back in this race.
You talk about value in your tries and your supers. This horse has been a part of both of them in his last 2 races at 66 to 1 and 57 to 1. So this horse does not owe you any money if you've been including him in those exotics.
Unfortunately, today the value goes out the window. For
Yeah,
that horse,
exactly. But you can take a little of that and roll it back, all
that's
that
right.
good money that you made in the last couple. We'll take a look now at race number 7. We have maidens going 5.5 furlongs. This Maryland sired horses are on the waiver in this race, and there's only 3 in this field that are for sale, and the rest are running on waivers. And scratch the 1, Bella Brandy M, scratch the 9, Magically Discreet, and scratch the 10, Baltimore Babe. And you like the 3, and that is one of the first-time starters.
No, I'm just thinking, Miss Saffron, she's just going to be one of these hard luck kind of a fillies, you know, where she's run 2 bang-up races in debut, 1 on a fast track, 1 on a sloppy sealed service, closed nicely. I thought she was going to maybe get YUS, get a Tim Woolley firster last time out, but coming back to the 5.5. She'll have to deal with maybe Simonelli, but she's tactical enough. She's the one to beat, clearly, of these horses that have run. But I'll take a flyer with the 3. Cherry and the Hawk for Phil Schoenthal by El Padrino. Unfortunately, we've lost that stallion recently within the last couple of weeks. But El Padrino's, man, the 2-year-olds, they were all running strong. 32%, I should say, with the 2-year-olds. Out of a mare that was 3 for 11 sprinting, ran fast, ran in the lower 90s. Half the 5-star Dream, who was another, was 3 for 11 lifetime, that ran in the low 90s. The breeding suggests speed, win early. Cherry and the Hawk, the fresh face, gets it done in race number 7.
Nice work, and you know, any of the first-time starters are just as likely to win this race. But of those that have raced, Miss Saffron looks like she has found her field today, as she's beaten some of the other ones in here. And I'm also going to take a look at the 4, which you used in the bottom at Velocita Brillante, who was only beaten 5 lengths, had some trouble in that race. I thought that was a very nice effort. She went off at almost 12 to 1 in her first start. I think it was a useful start for her. Just kind of ran evenly, but again, as we alluded to earlier, sometimes, especially for a first-time starter, when you have trouble at the gate, it can really discourage you. And we talked about it yesterday on the air that with these younger horses, and especially first-time starters, you know, when they're training in the morning, they might train behind 1 or 2 horses and get dirt thrown in their face. But it's a total different story when you are behind a wall of horses because you got off slowly, and you know there were 10 horses in that race.
Big field.
So you never know what you know. It could be discouraging when all of a sudden you're behind everybody and you're getting a lot of dirt hitting you in the face for the first time.
Yeah. And what I liked is this filly, she tried the whole way. She bobbled. She was able to kind of move up into the pace, drop back a little bit, and came back a little bit at the end before flattening right at the wire. JP's Gusto, kind of a newer stallion. I remember kind of specific, some breeding on this horse. Was win early, heading towards winning early. Going to use again in the mix. I don't know if she's going to be able to run that good again. I don't know, but I think underneath. This first her intrigues me for Schoenthal. He sneaks in here sometimes with these 2-year-olds, and he sometimes cracks. In for ball for 10,000. Going to run this horse for this level. I think she's might have gotten a steal here with the 3. We'll see.
A sleeper that I have in this race is the 8, To Be Honest, who is 10-1 in the morning line. Sprinted on the turf, then went long on the turf. Long on the turf in Maiden Special Weight Company just was not the place to be for this filly last time out. Go back to her dirt form, October the 21st. She ran in the Maryland Million Lassie, and she was just beating a couple lengths. For a maiden, I thought that was a very respectable performance. The last time she ran for maiden 40, she finished 4th, and again, just a few lengths behind the 11 beater in that race. And but I think that today, also Enchanted Ghost, who has thirditis, who's been third all 3 times that she's run. But I think, to be honest, coming back to the sprints, might have a shot at an upset here, especially at a price.
Yeah, that mile and 16th race might have helped the conditioning a little bit. She's another one, a little bit of flattening out, tendency, a little hang late. And she was on the better part of the racetracks on October 21st and October 1st. But, yeah, a definite user at an okay price, I believe, underneath. This is a tough little race number 7.
To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, okay.
Let's take a look at the 8th race on the card. 1 mile into 16th for 3-year-olds and up. Non-winners of 3 other than. Optional claimer 32,000. And of the 2 tough races that I talked about earlier on the card, this is the second one, as there would not be a single horse in here that won that would be a surprise to me.
Right. Quality field.
And how come we ended up on the same 2 horses?
Well, we went 4-7. Yeah, Final Prospect last time almost pulled a really nice little upset at 13-1. Got this horse to kind of rate a little bit and made the move and just couldn't get by Unbridled Daddy. I think this horse gets another perfect stalking trip. I think it's a lineup race if things don't get too hot and heavy on the front end, with Wake Up in Malibu setting the pace and Final Prospect taking aim, and maybe Fellowship. These 3 look like if they don't go too fast, we'll have plenty left to kind of hold off the closers. We've got video of the 4 Wake Up in Malibu from November the 23rd, off of a break from June. And Jake, as soon as you said, he doesn't waste gas money, comes down here and gets the job done. What a nice ride by Sheldon Russell, kind of just off of the inside. But this horse does something that a lot of horses haven't done over the last couple of months at Laurel, and that's go to the front, stay inside, get pressured, and still win. This horse looked engulfed coming to the top of the stretch, but just digs in tenaciously under Sheldon Russell and gets the job done by, a head margin.
Right.
Look at this. Looks
and
going to run 3rd, right?
Right, exactly.
Will not be denied.
And you got to love his tenacity off of that layoff, because he had every reason to get tired in the later stages of the race, but he was able to dig in and hang on. I thought that was a nice race. That was only his 2nd race of the year, so clearly whatever issues he had, came back once and still wasn't himself when he got the claim, and Jacobson took his time and then got a win out of him. And in my opinion, he ought to be able to get away with a very slow pace up front, because you have some absolute stone-cold closers in here that even if they wanted to, they're still not going to be able to press the issue. So I expect this horse to get away pretty easy on the front end, and I think he's the one to catch for sure. And the way he dug in last time, even if they come to him, hopefully he will be able to do it. And we already talked about Final Prospect, and we want to talk about the 1, Bada Vista. This horse who won the John Campbell here back over the winter in 2017 and upset Paige McKenna, did cash a really nice exacta that day. That horse went off at almost 23-1. And since then, this horse has been not only in stakes company, but graded stakes company. This horse ran in the Pimlico Special, and he was off from September to November, comes back in a $100,000 race in his usual style, which is way, way out of it. This horse has earned $412,000 in his life. And I don't know if he's ever been in for a tag. He's run 37 times, so it's likely that he has way, way, way in the past. But, this is a huge question mark for me. I don't think he'll get the pace to run at today. I mean, he's obviously the back class of the race, but it does not set up for him at all. And it's just interesting to me that after running in graded stakes company back in September, he's in for a tag today. So is it a move, to get a good race into him and have everyone think not to drop the claim because he's not what he was, or is he truly not what he was?
Well, I guess he's got to be right for the condition, right? I had to go through everything that the races that he's won, so he probably would have to run for the tag, right? He gets the 3 other than or 32. So yeah, Badazafa, I don't know. He's going to be well back. I don't know if he gets up today. I just think this race is a lineup. I do. I think Fellowship. Look at his trial November the 11th out of the Richard Small Stakes, 10 hole. Now, granted, good part of the track. Moved up with a Fleet Willie, but couldn't kick on with those horses after moving into a slower pace. So some of the horses had a little bit left on the front end. Fellowship, sneaky. He's going to get a great trip in here. I think any duplicate of the last race puts him into the mix.
And, you know, Ghost Bay, who you used there, he hasn't been off the board in 5 races. So this is, I think in your pick 4s, pick 3s, pick 6s, everything else, that this is the race that you really probably need to go deep in, unless it just truly is a 25 and 50 quarter for Wake Up in Malibu, and then it's just as simple as it looks on paper.
Yeah,
so.
and like I say, Final Prospects last race, he's another one. Can he duplicate it? A lifetime best. Did it take a lot out of them? They ran hard. Both of those horses ran really hard through the stretch. So can they rebound and not on a fairly short turnaround? Yeah.
Well, we are at the end of the day, a maiden 10,000 for our 9th and final race, going 5.5 furlongs. It is for fillies and mares, they're 3-year-olds and up. And in this race, no scratches and a jock change on the 4 Mary Maid to Carrasco. Yeah. And in this race, you like the 8 Grand Lassie.
I'll take the shot. Yeah, Annapolis class, these two could be flip-flop when it comes when they break from the gate. Maybe the one could be favorite. Annapolis class looks like the speed. Might take a little pressure. There was a long shot in here that I thought that might force the issue. Quick as a flash, yeah. The 6 could go ahead and press. But Annapolis class, the road's probably going to go through her by the time they hit the top of the stretch. But I think Grand Lassie's last time on the dirt is good enough. Now, I know that was an off-the-turf race, but Chobe Girl, conjecture, has come back to run in the mid-60s. A good draw. I think she can kind of stalk and make a move into them and get on by. If you can beat the 1 or the 8 in here, that's where you kind of blow things up, and your Rainbow Pick 6s have the chance to get it, because I think all of 90% of the tickets are going to probably be centered around the 1 and the 8 completing your late gimmicks.
And the 1 Annapolis class came out of the same race with the 2 Wildcat Rising, the 4 Mary Maid, the 5 Rosetta Red, and the 6 Quick as a Flash. So, really the 8 is one of the few and the first-time starter that this horse hasn't already proven that she can beat. So, and she did go posted as a favorite. She almost got the job done. And to me, I agree with you. It's either the 1 or the 8. We both used the 2 a little bit, Wildcat Rising. I mean, she is a professional maiden. This is her 31st career start, but she's earned $30,000 and has been in the money in a third of those races. So, you can't necessarily leave her out.
Yeah, got Weston Hamilton, 10-pound bug, Stevie's son. A nice ride he gave on Durango Girl the other day. Got a good rating early and kind of slipped through along the rail to get second. Nice job. Hopefully he's got a bright future ahead of him. That's Weston Hamilton. I think in this race, the 5 Rosetta Red, if anybody can improve a little bit, I think it might be her. She ran a little bit better last time and against the grain of the racetrack.
That was shortening up from a route to a sprint also.
I think if anybody's going to maybe
her a little bit.
going to get up there in a price, it would be her.
Are we so old that we remember when Steve Hamilton started and now his son is riding? Is that what I'm to believe? Well, we were only 5 when we started. Right. Well, we have taken you through the 9 race card. Hopefully we've given you some good information. We are 37 minutes to post on this Monday at Laurel. Thank you, Keith, for your insight as always.
Yep, good seeing you again.
You as well. And we will be back shortly with Dave Rodman with all the changes for today's card. Good luck, everyone.
Good luck.